Hi, welcome to the Density Games. Today we're going to be exploring density through a series of experiments. I know what you're thinking. Mr. Cusack, you're not in the laboratory. How are you going to do experiments? Well, I'm going to show you how to do some fun experiments today using everyday items. On the table behind me I have items that I bet a lot of you actually have in your home right now. Now, we're going to explore density through these experiments. But I want to remind you, before you do any of them, don't do them on your own. Make sure you have permission and help from your parent or an adult. So let the density games begin. And now, before we get started, I want to help us all be safe. Now, while there aren't going to be any dangerous chemicals in the experiments I'm about to show you, it's a good idea whenever you're doing experiments to wear a pair of safety goggles to protect your eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and wear a pair of safety goggles to show you how it's done. Right, so our first experiment is going to involve some oil and some water. I've already put some water in this bottle. And since it's clear, I'm going to add a drop of blue food coloring to help us see it just a little bit better. Mix that around in there a little. Now we can see the water just a little bit easier. Okay, now we're going to add some oil. Just a little bit more. Alright, what's going on here? Well, they must need to be mixed together, so let's mix them together a little bit first. See what happens. Alright, well, it looks like they mixed together. Wait a minute. Well, they're not mixing together. Well, I'll tell you a little secret. There's a reason why they don't mix together, but that's a story for a different day. We're here to talk about density. So, oil sitting on top of the water tells us that the oil is less dense than the water. Or, in reverse, that the water is more dense than the oil. Because when you have two liquids, or solid objects actually too, the less dense object will float and the more dense object will sink. So we know that oil is less dense than water. Alright, for our next experiment, we're going to take this bowl of water. Here, I'll move some stuff out of the way just so we can see a little better. Now we're going to take this orange. I have a orange with the peel still on, and I'm going to put it in the bowl of water. Now this is a pretty heavy object, so I'm going to go ahead and predict that when I put it in the water, it's going to sink down to the bottom of the bowl. So let's see what happens. Alright, what the? The orange is floating in the water. So if we use our previous experiment, the orange must be less dense than the water? I don't know. Let's try something else. I happen to have a peeled orange right here. I wonder if that's going to do anything different. Let's see and find out. Well, yeah, that's down on the bottom of the bowl. So now the orange sinks. What's going on? Well, let me tell you another little secret. When an orange still has its peel on, the peel of the orange actually has a lot of little air bubbles in it. And air is less dense than water. That's why you don't see air going down into the water. So the air in the peel, which is less dense than water, actually keeps the orange floating. But once you take the peel off, the orange will sink. Okay, we have one more experiment today. It's going to involve this egg and some water. We're going to see what the egg does. I'm going to predict it's going to sink because it is a solid object, so it's going to be a lot like the peeled orange. But it is a raw egg, so there is some liquid inside, so you never know what's going to happen. Maybe place it in a glass of regular water, and it does sink to the bottom. This tells us that the egg is more dense than plain water. Let that be a lesson not to put too much water in a glass. Now I have over here a glass that I mixed some salt into. And we're going to see if I can get this egg to float. And you look at that, the egg floats in salt water. So while the egg is more dense than the regular water, it's less dense than the salt water. And that also tells us that this plain water is going to be less dense than the salt water. So if you were able to keep the two separate without them mixing, just like the oil and water we did earlier, you could see the plain water on top of the salt water. But we're not going to go that in depth. I just wanted to show you that you can make an egg float in water with just a little bit of salt because it changes the density. Alright, well that concludes our experiment on density. But now that we're done with those experiments, I want to have a little bit of fun. I'm kind of thirsty and need a little bit of a snack, so I got myself a little bit of Diet Coke here, and I got myself a little bit of some Mentos candy. But you know what? I don't want to have them separately, so let's have them all at the same time. Alright. Let's see what happens with this.